Hello, this is Matt with Big Monster Brewing. This episode is going to be a little different. What I'm doing, as you can see, is I am tasting 3 beers. And these are 3 beers I have made on this channel. You may have seen those videos, or if you haven't, they're on this channel to see. But they are the 3 beers I submitted to the Sunshine Challenge. And today, possibly even right now, as I'm recording, they are judging the beers for the competition. The award ceremonies are 2 weeks from now, and I think this is like the first round judging, preliminary judging. The point is, the judges will be tasting these beers today, so I pulled the last ones I had out of the fridge to see what they're going to be tasting, to see what, I don't want to say what my chances are. I have no delusions of winning this. I just want to see what they're tasting. Did I give them my best efforts, which was the point of this whole project? And is there anything wrong with these? Did they get infected? Are they oxidized? Is there DMS? Is there diacetyl? That's kind of the main thing. I want to make sure I'm preparing myself for if there's any off flavors that I know what they are, so I know what's coming, and also to see again what the judges are tasting. So I have 3 beers here. I don't have the exact cups that they're using. They posted pictures of setting up this morning. And the cups they have, you've probably seen, they're about yay high. They're actually about like the top half of this cup. They're squatty. The base is pretty broad. I swore I had some. But I didn't. So I got the next thing I had closest to it, which were these. The next thing I have is a 16-ounce clear solo cup. That base seemed too wide. I want to see what they're looking at and what they're getting an aroma. My aroma is going to be a little skewed because it's longer. I should only about half this, but it should give me the idea if there's a really terrible off aroma in there. And then the taste, of course, that could be out of any vessel. So I'm going to start first. I've kind of updated myself on what the style guidelines are, so I won't read them here and make an extra long episode. I'm going to start off with the cream ale. You can see the cap's gone. It's because I started this video with my good camera and the battery died, and the second battery was not on the charger. So I went all through this tasting on this one. I'm going to try to act surprised again, but I kind of know what this one's like. So first, to summarize the color, we are looking for a light gold to straw color, which that is nailed. The clarity on this is pretty surprising because I did no findings on this. That's pure gravity and age, so I'm happy with that. The head retention was better when the bottle wasn't sitting here for 15 minutes warming up and letting all the gas escape, but it's actually still not bad. It's got a really nice collar. The first go around on this, the head kind of stayed pretty well. It was thin, but it covered the entire top. So for aroma, what we're looking for, an aroma, well attenuated, no hops, a crispness to it, a lightness to it, a little bit of maltiness to it, a little bit of even possibly characteristics from the adjuncts. In this case, it was corn and rice. So let's take a aroma test. And I do get no hops, so there's absolutely no hop aroma in this whatsoever. The biggest thing I do smell is corn. Not like straight up all corn, but there is a corn behind that kind of general beer aroma. And I'm not getting a lot of alcohol, which I thought with the well-attenuated beer that it's supposed to be, and from my measurements, I think it kind of was. I was expecting more of a, not boozy, like too strong, but a little bit of a recognizable alcohol aroma, but doesn't seem to be there. Just corn and beer, which could be good. So I'm going to taste this. And I said way too late in my first version that I had just come back from vacation, and the very first 6-pack I grabbed was a cream ale that was heavy on the corn. I mean, heavy on the corn. So my palate adjustment, or what do you want to call it, calibration no cream ale, is a little skewed right now. So I'm going to taste it again, and maybe now that I've taken a break and got some water, I'll have a better idea. But I'll go right to the tasting. First and most importantly, it's not oxidized. There's no infection, at least not in this bottle. No diacetyl, no DMS, which I'd kind of expect a lot of with such a clean beer and having the corn in it. But the corn taste that's in there is not that DMS corn, if that's even what the characteristic of DMS is. I might be mixing that with another off flavor. But there's a hint of that corn in there. But otherwise, it's really light, which is one of the characteristics looked for in the guidelines. It's a little crisp. Crisp is one that they kind of mentioned more than once, I think. I think the name and the overall impression and the flavor, or maybe even the mouthfeel, There's a little crispness there, but the emphasis on the guidelines that they use for that descriptor of crisp, that wouldn't be like the very first thing or second thing I describe this as. So maybe that's a little short. But they do actually say the word lawnmower beer. And this is absolutely a lawnmower beer. This is something I would actually, I think I have 2 bottles left. I am going to save for my next brew day when it gets blazingly hot out, because now it's summer in Orlando, and that's the worst. So I will need a nice, crisp, light lawnmower beer. And if that's what they say this should be, that's what I think it is. So I was done describing it. I just wanted to drink it, apparently. Okay, second beer, alt beer. This is a style I'm going to be working on a lot, because I didn't realize how much I loved an alt beer until I made the first one. I've made 2, and I tasted them side by side with the guidelines in front of me, checking off 2 copies of them. I'm not kidding, 2 copies, checking this and that, everything would hit. The first version hit most of the highlights. Neither of them, I should say, hit all the highlights. The first one hit the most. So this is the first version of the alt beer, but there's a second one that I'm letting age, and I'll taste that closer to another competition time, and maybe I'll submit the second one to a different competition. But this is the first alt beer I made. It's also the one that's on the video posted on this channel. So let's first see what we got in the way of color and everything else. All right, so again, summarizing the guidelines, the color they say should be a medium brown to light copper. Yeah, that is the problem I had with both. The second one came out almost the exact same color. That is not the right color. If I'm holding it directly under a light, then I get some copper, but you can still see here when you look through the deepest part of the cup, it's too dark. I'm gonna get dinged on the color. That's gonna be no surprise. Dinged on appearance, I should say. Aroma, there should be a little bit of bitterness, a little bit of malt. Should be a nice balanced aroma. And in this case, I would say it's a little more malt forward than hoppiness, and even a little boozy. The booziness I expected from the cream ale, with it to be highly attenuated, but there's a touch of hops there. Maybe it's also like in my imagination because it's supposed to be there, but that's really reaching for it. So it's very malt forward aroma and a bit of bordering on boozy, but not quite there. Now for the taste, there should be an assertive bitterness and a rich malt backbone. Then there's a ton of other descriptors that it could be: spicy, peppery, floral, there's a ton of them, but the bitterness, the hop present should be in the early addition bitterness to it, and any other hops on there might go with the other descriptors. So what I'm looking for is a recognizable bitterness and then that rich malt backbone, which this has had before, but with this being the first one I made, I'm giving it to them a little later than I wanted to. So let's see what they're tasting right now. I will say, okay, the rich maltiness is there, and there is a bit of bitterness, but I think the complexity I had the last time I tasted this is kind of possibly aging out. The good part, which I failed to mention, I don't taste oxidization. I always add like 7 syllables in that. It doesn't taste oxidized. I don't taste any real off flavors. Definitely not any kind of infection, which is always a worry. I do remember the first taste of this being a lot more complex. It's not bad, which is good. But I think if I make this again, I'm going to go back to the first recipe, and I'm going to make sure it gets them to the judging table a week earlier than this, at least a week, maybe 2 weeks. It's a beer. Alt beer should be by style and tradition lagered for a little bit after brewing, but I've actually found, and maybe it's just the way I stumbled on this recipe, or maybe it's the yeast I'm using, it's a pretty good to go fresh beer, like not unlike an IPA or a pale ale, which does not seem like what it's supposed to be from what I've read. Or maybe I'm not making an alt beer, I'm just making a beer I like better than an alt beer. Anyway, let's move on here. We're already 10 minutes into this, so wit beer. This was the only one I made in this challenge that I knew it was going to take. Now the funny part is, this is not the wit beer you saw because I messed up. I went back and made it, but it is the, what do you want to call it? The hook, the catch, the hook, whatever the punchline. The special ingredient is still cotton candy. There is cotton candy in this beer, and that's what I wanted to submit. And the first one I messed up with my orange peel and a couple other ingredients as far as measurements. I went back and made it almost immediately. And this is exactly the way it should be made. I don't know if it's any good. Well, I know I like it. I don't know if it's any good for style, but this is what I wanted to submit, is what I'm trying to say. This is the beer I wanted to submit. So it's not the same one in the video, but it's pretty darn close. And the main attraction, why can't I find the right word for this? It has cotton candy in it. This beer has cotton candy in it. I want to see what happens to a beer that has cotton candy in it. Uh-oh, we got a gusher. That's not a good sign. Actually, I've had worse. But that might be a sign of some kind of infection. I hope not. Oh boy. That's not how I wanted to start the pour on this one. Okay, now it looks like everything's calmed down. Let's take a look here. All right, so color. We're looking for a straw color again, much like the cream ale. And this can be a little cloudy from the yeast and from the wheat that's used in it. So I think we're okay on appearance. This one has a head that's staying, but I hope it's because of the beer, not because of anything else. So let's find out. Let's go to the aroma first. All right, it does have that Belgian-y characteristic that I cannot put my finger on. It's something I actually don't like. I think if you've seen when I made this beer, I don't like Belgian beers, and I don't like wit beers, but I like making a wit beer with cotton candy. So I get that distinct Belgian aroma. There's never anything else I can identify out of that. It's so strong on my nose. So what else is supposed to be in there? I don't think I'd be able to find it if it was or wasn't there. Let's get to the taste now. So we should have a little bit of a malty sweetness to it. We should taste some of that orange, some of that coriander, and it should have a pretty decent mouthfeel from all the other adjuncts in there as well. So let's give it a taste. First, I'm right out gonna taste for all flavors, because the gusher, which is growing again, is slightly concerning. Okay, thank God. I don't taste any off flavors. It may be just plain over carbonated. I'm gonna pour some more in just to get some more headroom in this bottle. Or there could be something wrong with it, but whatever is wrong with it is not affecting the taste. So I don't taste that I've had infected bottles before, and it just grabs your tongue and it almost hurts. It's so bad. That taste is not in there. So okay, I don't think it's infected in that in that regard. So let me taste now for taste. There's definitely that malty sweetness to it. I'm really getting that coriander in a pleasing way, which is strange for me to say because I typically don't like wheat beers or wit beers. But I got that, and there's always, and it's probably imagination, but every time I made this beer, I'm going to taste it one more time. There's always, I swear I taste an artificial flavoring, like the artificial strawberry and blue raspberries and that cotton candy. I think it's my imagination. I think it's a combination of the malts and on the finish there, I really tasted it. It may be my imagination. I think it is just the sweetness of the malts, a little bit of the orange peel and a little bit of the coriander, playing with the fact that I know there's cotton candy in it. But I was really worried. That's foamy. Hopefully that's just, again, maybe I added too much priming sugar or maybe too early, because I did make this and bottle this quick. I can live with overcarbonating a beer. I would have not been happy to submit 3 bottles of an infected beer, but if it's infected, I don't taste it. And that might be because it's Belgian and they just taste infected to me. All right. I'm pleased with my submissions. It's, again, no delusions that I'm going to win, but I'm glad they all held up. They didn't age badly. Now, I think if I were to say I had any shot, I don't think I do, it's probably the cream ale. That seems to hit the most marks. Followed by the wit beer, and I think this is the dark horse, the alt beer. It's just, there's right there looking at it, that's the big thing. The color is wrong. I think the taste is okay. I think the complexity is starting to age out. So when I do this again, I'm going to submit it a little earlier. But I don't, like I said, I don't have any delusions of winning anything at all. I just want to make sure I didn't give some really nasty beers, and it appears I didn't. Unless for some reason those 9 bottles I submitted all got some weird infection that these 3 didn't, I should be good. So I feel a little better about that. We'll see what happens. I'm going to share the results, the scorecards, when the time comes. Again, that's 2 weeks away, and then the scorecards will probably be the 2 weeks away till the ceremony, and it'll probably be like another 2-3 weeks after that. This is a big contest. it says 500 entries. So they got to scan all those, attach them to the entries accounts to be able to get them. So it may be a while, but I will share that. So that's it. Thank you for watching this different episode. I am probably going to start doing a couple more tasting videos on some of the beers that we did before to clear out my fridge and see how they age as well, but they won't have the weight of the competition on my shoulders. Hopefully I'll be a little more lighthearted about it. But to see those episodes, make sure you subscribe and hit that alarm bell, and that will tell you when they're out. So let me say one more time, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in that next episode.